You guys have had two burning questions for us recently. The first one we answered in our last video, which is how the heck we can afford to do all of this. And now we're gonna answer your second question.
Which is, how in the heck are we going to get to our property this winter?
We're Courtney and Riley Casey. After spending almost 3 months building the truck camper of our dreams, we sold our tiny house and hit the road to ski, mountain bike, and take our first vacation in 5 years. After months of travel, we fell in love with North Idaho and bought 20 acres of raw, off-grid land. Follow along as we live full-time in a truck camper and build our dream barn dominium.
Courtney and I are working on a bell rally, and it is so windy out here we cannot see a thing. All the competitors' tents are blowing away. This is crazy. Push the other side in.
This is crazy!
Dude, that sandstorm I told you that was just starting when I was on the phone with you has gotten insane. Anyways, yep, all right, I'll look for that email, thank you.
What are you doing?
I'm ordering parts for the tracks, of course.
We've done so much driving today and yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, but
We're about to pick up an awesome new toy that is probably going to answer a lot of your questions.
stay tuned.
Okay, we have arrived.
How's it going?
The first problem is that our trailer is full of stuff. So we got to see if we can get all these tanks and totes off of the trailer, get the Jeep on, and then find a place to put them all again.
Are they gonna fit?
Yeah.
That's not what you said earlier.
No, that's what I said earlier.
Oh gosh, you're gonna knock this off. Oh my god. All right, what could possibly go wrong right now? I don't know if you guys can see this, but he's driving up on boards because we don't have ramps. Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't think that's gonna work.
It might work.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's mint.
Oh my gosh.
Success! It only looks like a rock crawler. It's actually two-wheel drive right now.
We made it. That was so much driving. So much driving.
We haven't totaled it up yet, but I think in the last 3 or 4 weeks we've done close to 5,000 miles of driving.
We are gonna take it easy tonight, maybe grill some pizza on the patio, get a soak in the hot tub, and then tomorrow we are back at it, full swing, to transform this thing into something that will get us to our property this winter.
Just a hint, there are lots of parts waiting for us in the garage that are going to go on it in the next week. So now we have 1 week to figure out how to put these on that Jeep.
Are we qualified to be doing this?
I don't know anything about snowmobile tracks, but I do know a lot about Jeeps.
Don't do it! you're reverting to your college days right now.
I have to leave my head out the window because it doesn't fit with the headliner falling down.
Dude. You guys have had 2 burning questions for us recently. The first one we answered in our last video, which is how the heck we can afford to do all of this. And now we're gonna answer your second question.
Which is, how in the heck are we going to get to our property this winter?
We talked about snowmobiles. We talked about something on really big tires with chains.
We talked about chaining up the army truck.
But none of that sounded nearly fun enough.
So we're gonna put this Jeep Cherokee on snow tracks. We know virtually nothing about snow tracks, but we do know a lot about Jeep Cherokees.
We've got 2 weeks to get this done, then we're headed to SEMA, and then we are headed back up to Idaho. Now, you may be thinking, oh, 2 weeks, they can get that done, but there is one glaring issue with this Jeep.
The last time Alex took this Jeep out to Pismo about 4 or 5 years ago, he broke the front axle housing. He got the Jeep back together enough to drive it home, but it is missing all of the parts in the front differential.
So not only are we putting a Jeep on tracks in the next 2 weeks, but we also need to set up a front end. He put a new housing in, but never set up the carrier, so we're going to have to do that. Okay, oh. You did that on purpose.
Did not. These are 136-inch used snowmobile tracks. I found an eBay seller who was able to put 4 kind of matching tracks together for me. They're all the same length and all the same pitch, but not all necessarily the same tread design. By buying used tracks, we were able to save a ton of money on this project. So the plan now is to figure out some kind of frame to hold these tracks, and then a drive wheel up top to make them go.
These look big.
These do look big.
What do you think, Bailey? Bailey is equally skeptical.
Something along those lines.
It's basically done. While Riley works on designing the tracks, I'm gonna give the Jeep a little love.
When it came time to choose a vehicle for this project, we knew we wanted an enclosed cab and enough room for the 2 of us, our dogs, and some supplies. We considered lots of vehicles, and ultimately it came down to a Jeep Cherokee was going to fit the bill well. Jeep Cherokees are lightweight, they have plenty of power, and they're affordable. This Cherokee used to belong to my friend Alex. He was in the Cal Poly Polygoats Off-Road Club with me. I gave him a call about Cherokees in general, and he said, well, why don't you just buy mine? Perfect. This Jeep is not pretty, so we're not going to be too worried about smashing it into a tree, and it's got plenty of modifications underneath, including front and rear locking differentials, a good low-range transfer case, and it runs well. One of the biggest pitfalls of the Jeep Cherokee is they are unibody, there is no frame underneath, but Alex has already installed a full set of frame stiffeners from front to rear on this thing, which should make it plenty beefy for supporting the tracks and maybe even a snowplow.
We are both big fans of the XJ platform. I had an XJ for a while. Riley's had an XJ for a while. They're awesome Jeeps, especially the bang for the buck. They're also really fun to drive. So thanks, Alex, for selling us your first car. I promise we're gonna at least try to take good care of it.
Okay, well, without further ado, let's build some tracks. We bought 136-inch long tracks, so now I'm trying to lay out the basic shape of how all these bogey wheels and the main drive wheel, what the relationship between all of them is going to be, so we can start designing the frame for this thing. So I'm designing all of this on the computer in SolidWorks so that we'll be able to use the CNC plasma table to cut out all the parts. This morning starts day 2 of working on the design for these tracks. I'm starting to feel really good about this design, itching to start cutting metal But this is also the point in the project where I start second guessing everything and want to start entirely over with the design. I've mentioned before that for me, getting started is the hardest part of the project. Courtney is really good about reminding me that it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. We can always make a second version. So I'm hoping by the end of today, we're actually cutting metal.
Let's go. Where does any good project start?
Harbor Freight. We're not sponsored. We just can't afford nicer stuff. All right, just left the steel supply yard. Trailer to steel. See what we can make of it. A quick trip to Harbor Freight for some essentials and a floor jack. Got all the way to the end and had a leftover part. I looked at it. This metal sheet is not part of the horizontal vertical metal cutting bandsaw. I have no idea why it's in the box. This little finger automatically turns the power off when the cut's done. That's a pretty cool feature. So we have a whole bunch of short pieces of steel tubing to cut as spacers for all of the idler wheels on these tracks. And the cuts need to be square and repeatable. And I got a quote for cutting all the parts, and for the same price, actually for less money, we just bought the bandsaw and we're gonna cut them ourselves. And then we'll have a bandsaw.
I know that sometimes our projects look quick and easy, but Riley has spent the last 3 days sitting at the computer drawing up these files.
But getting everything pre-planned is going to pay dividends in the future when putting these together hopefully goes well.
So now we are finally ready to start cutting parts. I'm super excited.
It's a little bit terrifying because each sheet of 3/16 steel cost us more than $500 and we do not have any extras.
Steel is so expensive right now. I am so glad that we are not building something bigger.
Well, let's get to cutting. But first we have to get to unloading.
I want a forklift.
Thanks Mark and Teresa for the grabo. Unfortunately it's 1,200 miles away. So this is what we've come up with. Basically, these two skis are going to support 20 of these idler wheels. And then there's this sort of sprocket drive wheel that mounts to the Jeep. The weight is going to be supported on this trailer hub assembly. So as the Jeep drives, the hub will stay stationary and the spindle will rotate with the drive wheel.
Is it gonna work?
I think it's going to work as long as we're able to keep all these parts parallel as we weld it together. Otherwise the track is going to want to walk off the entire assembly. This is a combination of, there's a good thread on the Pirate 4x4 forum about tracked vehicles. I looked at a whole bunch of the homemade ones on there along with a few of the commercially available ones and just came up with what I thought was reasonable for us to build with the tools that we have here at the shop.
Let's do it.
I think these tracks are going to be heavy.
Look at that. It's spooky season.
We have a visitor for Halloween.
Make it go away.
It's trying to escape.
They're always bigger than I remember them being.
Watching the parts go from computer to reality this quickly never gets old. This machine is awesome for this stuff. And now we're gonna test fit whether this drive hub actually fits like it's supposed to. This is the part that's gonna bolt to the Jeep, but the trailer hub is the same bolt pattern, so I'm just gonna use this as our little test fit. Once we open the holes a little bit, it's gonna fit perfect. And now to see if it fits the track correctly. These tracks have a 2.52 inch pitch, which means that each drive tooth is 2.52 inches apart from each other. And so that's the same as each one of these spots. There's gonna be a piece of round tube welded into this hub to engage the drive teeth. So theoretically, each one of these holes should line up with a drive lug. And they do appear to be slightly off, don't they? Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's just because it's not quite tight enough. So my plan is that each one of these holes is going to have a piece of round tubing welded in it, and that's going to engage these teeth on the inside of the track. I think that the 2.52 pitch refers to in here. There's enough of a diameter difference that it's making our drive lugs not quite line up right. So with the spacing on this drive sprocket slightly wider than the spacing on the drive lugs on the track, what would happen is all of the load would be on one drive lug at a time, and as the sprocket spins around driving the track, the load will be transferred from one lug to the next, and each time it does that, this wheel will have to slip slightly, and I don't think it'll work very well. It'll make for kind of a jerky ride. So I think we need to address this by changing the diameter of this just slightly. All right, I got the model fixed, and it's time to try again. That seems very close to me. I think we're good now. And that is the beauty of doing this stuff in the computer. I made this first one with two different wheel patterns in the middle so that it would fit both older and newer Jeeps. But this is the spindle that's going to support all the weight of the vehicle, and it's going to end up welded in here. And I just didn't feel comfortable with how much material we had removed and how much room there was to weld with those two patterns. So on version 2, I put just one pattern in it. This is 5-on-5, which is what Jeep JKs use, and it's really easy to adapt to this. Since we were going to need wheel spacers anyways, now we'll just run wheel spacer adapters, and that gives us a lot more room to weld this spindle on. But I'm too excited and I want to see what it's going to look like.
You need me to hold it up?
Yeah, can you like hold this up? That'll go
Like that?
like that. Like that. Like that. Well, at the very least, we have some cool looking parts.
Is it gonna work?
Yeah, it's gonna work. Oh.
That's it for now. We've got Airbnbers checking in less than an hour, so we've got some cleanup to do, and then we're gonna go visit some friends this weekend.
But I am so stoked to see these parts coming together. I feel like our design is going to work.
I'm feeling optimistic.
I at least feel like we have all the difficult to get parts here, and that's a big step. And also that we have a solid design to go off of. From here, it's a lot of assembly, and then we'll finally get to test them.
We didn't know what this winter was going to be like, but I think we're actually going to need this thing to get to our property.
My hope is that when we arrive back in Idaho, there is so much snow that we have to use this thing to get in there.
So thanks so much for watching. As always, the easiest way to support us is just to like and subscribe. It feels good to be back into making things, and we have some really big plans for the next few months.
Stay tuned for some more awesome projects and progress.
How do you guys feel about the Jeep?